Thanks for joining us on your channel of choice at this time, Africa Independent Television AIT. Welcome to Focus Nigeria, your program that puts the searchlight on topical issues in the polity. My name is Benga Aruleba, glad to be here this morning. One of the safeguards for possible excesses or abuse of office by our elected representatives in the legislative assemblies, other than the national in our legislative assemblies, that is the national and state assembly level, is the recall process. Wikipedia defines the recall process as a procedure by which voters can remove an elected official from office through a direct vote before their term has ended. Since different countries have their own variants of democratic norms, processes, and principles, the recall process, therefore, differs from one country or democracy to another. For instance, while the recall procedure applies to elective executive offices in the United States of America, where a governor of a state can be recalled or removed based on a direct vote of constituents, the recall process in Nigeria, on the other hand, only applies to elected representatives in the legislative houses, while the elected representatives in the executive can only be impeached on the votes of elected representatives in the legislative arm. I hope that's not too complicated. Now, in Nigeria, therefore, the recall process, as enshrined in the Constitution, that's our Constitution, is open to members of a constituency to show their displeasure with and or perhaps loss of confidence in their elected representative in the legislative arm. In other words, it's more or less a confidence vote. Now, since 1999, when the Fourth Republic began, there has been no successful recall process in Nigeria, even though there has been at least 2 attempts, both of which did not succeed. That of Senator Jubri Aminu, that represented Adamawa Central Senatorial District between 1999 and 2003, and of course, then in 2013, that of a member of the Benue State House of Assembly, Honorable Hembadu Amina, representing Katsina Ala West State Constituency in the Benue State House of Assembly, whose recall process led to a widespread riot in the area, forcing the move to be abandoned. But a new script is playing out in Kogi State, where constituents from Kogi West Senatorial District are attempting to invoke the recall process on their senator, Senator Dino Melai. On Wednesday, representatives of the constituency were at the INEC headquarters, Abuja, to formally submit a petition for the purposes of the recall. It's the first crucial stage in an elaborate process that has like 10 different thresholds. But the most crucial that has to be crossed is the first step, which requires a little over 50% of the entire registered voters, mark that word, entire registered voters in the senatorial district to sign the petition for a recall. The rules require that this signature gathering cannot be done whimsically, because the process allows both INEC and the person seeking to be recalled to verify the signatures. But so far, the constituents from Kogi West Senatorial District have shown some uncommon resolve and determination, fueling suggestions that the full machinery of the state government may have been rolled out in support of the agitators for Senator Melai's recall, a development that the leaders of the recall process deny at the INEC premises on Wednesday. That was yesterday, when they came to submit all the relevant documents.
We don't need to recall Senator Dino Melai. We do not need to give anybody money. Performance speaks for any representative who is up to the task of his responsibility. The people of Kogi West are in anger as pertaining to the poor representation that is being witnessed in the National Assembly, particularly at the Senate seat. And that is why, because it is over 2 years, and there's nowhere in Kogi West where you can find a constituency office for the senator, where you can even lodge complaints, where you can reach out to him. He has been inaccessible. He has been unreachable. You know, there is no constituency project on ground to show that there's somebody representing us in the last 2 years. There has been a major gap between the senator and the people of Kogi West. And that is why we do not need to lobby anybody. It's a matter of saying, are you satisfied with the representation we have presently at the Senate? We were required to have a little above 50%, about 360 people registered as voters in Kogi West. As of today, we have come here with signatures of about 188,500 and something. And by that, we have a percentage of 52.3.
There you have it. Over 188,000 people out of over 360 registered voters in Kogi West have signed the recall process. So the recall process, how efficacious or how practicable in exercising oversight over those entrusted with power? Or is this nothing but a paper tiger, too cumbersome to accomplish and therefore needs revisiting in our process of amending the Constitution? Again, how desirable is this recall process? Or are there better ways constituents can show their displeasure with their elected representatives in a legislative assembly rather than wait for the turn of election to do so? We will be examining the recall process, particularly the financial aspect of it as well as provided for in our Constitution, as well as the guidelines by INEC for achieving a recall. As we ask, the recall process, is this a clog or a blessing to the democratic process? But just one quick one here before we get to our discussion. The acting president, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, SAN, rounded off his troubleshooting efforts yesterday when he had a session with state governors. The acting president said the governors have a responsibility to preserve peace in their respective states, and they should be proactive about this.
I trust that all of us appreciate the need, and here I speak not just to Your Excellencies, but to all as leaders and playing different roles in our country, that we need to show greater unity of purpose and determination to work together to resolve various challenges that arise on a constant basis for the benefit of all Nigerians, regardless of party affiliations. And we must resist the temptation to play politics, especially with matters of security. We're all agreed that Nigeria's unity should never be taken for granted, and that no one wants to see Nigeria going down the path of bloodshed. I think that there is clarity as to that from all of the conversations, all of the consultations we've had with all of the leaders. The Constitution guarantees the equality of all Nigerians before the law and the freedom to live and work anywhere in the country, in peace and safety, without fear of discrimination or prejudice. That is a guarantee of our Constitution, and that is the reason why the federal government and state governments must be committed to ensuring that every Nigerian citizen lives and works wherever he pleases, peacefully and securely.
All right, Professor Yemi Osinbajo addressing governors from the states who were summoned to Abuja yesterday as part of the troubleshooting efforts to douse the current tension in the country. Our discussion is up next. You already know what we will be discussing. We are looking at the recall process, the entire process as provided for in the Constitution. Is it achievable? What are the obstacles? Is it also desirable in a democratic process? We'll be getting a lot of education from INEC this morning. Okay, so join us after this short break.
They see chaos and conflicts. We see community action for good governance. They see poverty and want. We see perseverance and the will to go on. They see economic law. We see the ingenuity and creative spirit of our people. We are AIT News, fresh, authentic views of Africa. How would you rather see the world? AIT News, all sides, all the time.
All right. If you're just joining us, a very warm welcome to you. We're starting the discussions now because my guests are here. It's my pleasure to welcome Mr. Oluwole Osaze Uzi. He is a lawyer. He's also the Director of Voter Education and Publicity, INEC headquarters here in Abuja. Good to have you with us, sir.
Thank you for having me. Good morning.
Thank you so much for always honoring our invitation. Mr. Mojid Dahiru is a journalist and a newspaper columnist, public affairs commentator as well. Dahiru, good to see you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir. All right. INEC is fully seized of the process that started like about 3 weeks or so ago now in Kogi West. Because there was, not too long ago, there was a statement credited to INEC. I don't know who in INEC now, that INEC is not aware of any recall process. As at that time, probably the process was still domiciled with the constituents. But with what happened yesterday, can we assume that INEC has taken charge of the process now as required by law?
Well, you cannot assume.
Okay, tell us what the stage is now,
petition
or what the situation
for the
is.
recall of a senator has been submitted to the commission. That was submitted yesterday.
Okay.
So that's where we're at. It's with the submission, it kickstarts the process as far as the commission is concerned for possible recall of the senator.
Yeah. When you say the process has, what happened yesterday kickstarts it, INEC, the next shot will have to be called by INEC right, from henceforth. The constituents have done their initial part, isn't it?
Yes, they have.
Okay. All of the processes that happened before now, how do we term it? Who takes charge of it for the purposes of all of this? Because constituents cannot just wake up individually on their own. They must have ROL. There's a lot anticipate that in doing all of that, there has to be maybe a kind of representatives that will be coordinating all of this. Is it part of the process anticipated by the recall process?
Well, a bit of background. The Constitution for Senate is a section 69 of the Constitution.
Yeah.
And what it just says is that if a petition is submitted, signed by at least half of the, more than half, not at least more than half of the registered voters in that person's constituency, in the Senate, in that senatorial district, or in the House of Reps, in that federal constituency, if it's submitted to INEC. So that's where it starts from. But we do know that there's a genesis. A petition has to be written, that's to be drafted, and people have to sign it. So yes, we expect that there'll be what I might term representatives of the people,
Okay.
who the constituents who want to sign a petition, because when we go on to discuss the processes, you'll see that we have to communicate, and we cannot communicate individually with each and every person, but we communicate through agents or through representatives. So yes, just like yesterday, we did not get 180,000 odd people coming to submit a petition. Some people did on behalf of those constituents. So yes, there's a we presuppose, the law presupposes that there will be representatives of these constituents, and just like when we go later, we'll see there'll be representatives of the person seeking the legislator that's sought to be recalled as well.
Okay. Since the law anticipates that the process will have to be initiated by some people, a group of people who may be interested persons. Suppose tomorrow we have another process initiated, kind of counter process initiated by some people by saying that we are not aware of this. What will INEC do?
Well, you see, we'll deal with the positive.
Okay.
And the positive in this
petition?
context is that a petition has been presented.
Okay.
You do not present a counter petition.
Okay, so you
commission.
process the petition,
Absolutely.
whether it fails or succeeds, would then be the way out.
It will be whether they've met certain thresholds set up by law, whether they've met those thresholds or not. If they meet those thresholds, then we'll go from one stage to the other.
From the little I've read about the process of recall, this is something like a no confidence vote. And the process is in every material particular similar to like you are having an election, a standalone election in a place.
Yes, the Electoral Act actually says that the processes for recall in everything that applies to elections will apply equally to recall as much as is practicable. The only difference is what the Constitution says. For example, it's a, as you're right, it's a confidence vote. It's a yes vote. If it gets to a referendum, it's yes, we want to recall him, or no, we don't want to recall him, we're satisfied. So, because the Constitution, the only reason given for presentation of a petition in the Constitution is that they have lost confidence in the representative. That's the only reason given in the Constitution.
Okay, I'll come back. Let me bring Dairo in also, so that people will know that this is not just a monologue between between the two of us, because once it's an election, the issue of the financial aspect also comes in. Whether that is enough clog on the part of INEC, or whether that may actually make INEC to feel, for instance, now we are looking at an election in Anambra by November. We're conducting a continuous voter registration exercise nationwide. It's copying money. After Anambra, we're going to be having another standalone election.
Before then, there's a senatorial election in Osun.
There's a senatorial election in Osun on July 18 or so.
2 weeks time, correct.
In 2 weeks' time. So all of these are money-grubbing ventures. Whether that alone could make INEC to say, where is this money going to go? We don't have the money, so we are going to do everything to ensure that this move doesn't succeed and all of that. Whether that is also possible within the process. But I let me bring in here. Historically now, since 1999, for those of us who keep tabs on what has been happening in the polity, since 1999, this move by the constituents in Kogi West is the one that has probably endured up to this point. I know that I think it was actually in 2002 or early 2003, when there was a problem between the godfather of Adamawa politics, then Vice President Atiku Abubakar, and one of the senators. There was a move to recall one of the senators, Senator Jubri Aminu. He started, but I think the senator quickly retraced his step and mend fences with with the VP, and so that move didn't get to the level of even collating signatures. And then, of course, there was another move in 2013 in Benue State to recall one of the legislators then, a lady legislator. But of course, the mere attempt to kickstart the process led to riots, and the move was abandoned in the process. But this is the first time that we'll be seeing people showing this level of determination to get to this level, to cross that major hurdle. What will make the people of Kogi West want to recall a senator that, in the eyes of people who are not constituents of Kogi West, perhaps the most popular senator in the Federal Republic of Nigeria?
Yes, thank you very much. Well, if you look at the historical antecedents of recall processes of legislators, you would clearly see a common thread of power tussle between some strong people in the executive arm of the government and the individual legislators. And this is unfortunate because it means politics in Nigeria is not really about good governance. It's about interest and selfish interest and power struggle. And the case of Kogi now is very pathetic. For me, I have described the situation in Kogi as a kindergarten playground where you have children playing. They scatter the entire arena and soil themselves. That is what's happening in Kogi, and it's unfortunate because the two actors in this situation are two young men who are supposed to...
Are you assuming that truly somebody is behind all of this process?
From all indications, I'm speaking as somebody who is a political commentator. There are indications. That's why I gave a background that in all of the processes so far, people don't just get up to begin to recall somebody. This is not a coincidence. Senator Dido Melaye has been there as a senator for about 2 years until his face-off with the executive governor of Kogi State started, which is in the public, is a fight that is so dirty, that is so filthy, that is in the public. And it's only then we started seeing moves to recall the senator. And let us not be pretentious about it. We know how politics in Nigeria works.
Have you seen the grounds of the petition? They have made out 18 charges against him.
Yes.
Almost all the 18 charges border about the conduct of the senator as a senator of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. either that he has done this against the party, he has done this against the national leaders of the party, he has done this against the president, who is assumed to be the leader of the party, and all of that. In none of these was the name of the governor mentioned as being the one that the senator has offended. In other cases where they have not listed those national officers and the party, they have listed his constituency, that he doesn't have a constituency presence, that it has not served the interest of the constituency in any way, and all of that.
Now, there's a background to this whole issue. You remember not long ago, Senator Dino Melaye alleged an assassination attempt on his life. And there was a verbal war between himself and the administrator of his local government, who was appointed by the executive governor of Kogi State. So all of this, you know, in politics, perception is real, is almost everything. So all of these incidents that have happened before this present recall process lends a lot of credence to the fact that probably it's a power struggle between himself and his former ally, now turned foe, that is leading to, you know, the very strong effort. That is not to discountenance the fact that Senator Dino Melaye may not have his own deficiencies. He may not have been deficient in his responsibilities as a senator for the people of Kogi West Senatorial District. That is not the fact. That's what I'm trying to say. For example, talking about his anti-party activities or things of that nature, as far as we know, Senator Dino Melaye was not only one of those who founded the APC, he was one of those
who founded the APC, or he was a joiner. He was in PDP.
No, he wasn't.
He was in the House of Reps as on the platform of PDP.
And he came to ACN. And he has been in ACN until the merger came about. Okay. He was a foundation member. Okay. And Senator Dino Melaye was a strong voice of opposition against the former administration of PDP. Senator Dino Melaye also has been, you know, a strong, you know, somebody you can call a party person, even at the last gubernatorial election in the states, at the federal level, and all of that. So I do not want to go into all of that. That is a party affair anyway. But what I'm saying is we have to face the issues. Now, from the feelers we're getting from the Western Senatorial District, some of their leaders have spoken out, for example, that the issue of recall, and as I've seen in other states, sometimes lead to violent crises. Because sometimes, when you have such charged political atmosphere, what it leads to sometimes is a breakdown of law and order, because contending forces, some people see it as a challenge to their own ethnic group, that somebody from another ethnicity who happens to be in executive position wants to remove, cannot dictate for them who their senator should be. You see, I'm saying this because, for me, Kogi does not need this. At this time. If I completely needless. You know, the struggle between the two of them, for me, the one way that the governor of Kogi can outwit Senator Dino Melaye, if truly he's involved in this, is to simply be a damn good governor. And Senator Dino Melaye's vituperations will become what they are, vituperations against him. Because people will see clearly that this man is performing his duties as a governor. And probably because maybe he's not giving you certain pecuniary advantages. This is why you're fighting him. So the best way to neutralize Dino Melaye is to be a good governor.
Okay.
Yes.
I'm trying to compare two processes here. In my intro, I said recall process elsewhere is different from our recall process. In the United States, for instance, recall process is usually used against those in the executive at the level of governor and all of that. Governors are recalled, not impeached. In our own situation, governors are impeached, not recalled. Members of National Assembly are recalled, not impeached. Members of National Assembly elsewhere are impeached, actually, are not recalled. Here, the ground could be the same. For instance, when you are impeaching, it is anchored on what members of the Assembly deem to be gross misconduct. And gross misconduct is a very nebulous term. Gross misconduct is whatever the members think it is. Here, too, is there anything that defines what could constitute the grounds for recall?
Yes,
there is. And is INEC allowed under the process to inquire into whether those issues constitute a ground for recall?
Thank you. The two processes are similar to the extent that it removes somebody who has been elected. It's a due process requirement for removal of somebody who has been elected. Because we must understand when people are elected, they are elected for a fixed tenure.
Yeah.
But you can leave that position by several means. Because when we say look at Section 69 of the Constitution, you also have to go back to Section 68, which lists out the ways which you can leave the National Assembly, one of which is by when you have been recalled. By the way, in the US, governors are impeached, recalled, correct? But the president can be impeached.
Yeah, the president can be impeached.
So in Nigeria, executive positions, the governor and the president cannot be recalled. They can only be impeached by the legislators. In Nigeria, whether you're a state assembly member or a national assembly member, be it a senator or a House of Representatives, you can be recalled. And the ground for recall is spelled out in Section 69, that the constituents have lost confidence in that person. Just like in Nigeria.
Isn't that nebulous?
Yes, in Nigeria, there's only one ground for divorce under the Matrimonial Consent Act. The lawyers will tell you. It is that the marriage has broken down irretrievably. But adultery, cruelty, all these are evidence to show that the marriage has broken down. So in the same way, there's loss of confidence. INEC cannot go into look at what is the reason for this loss of confidence. Whether it doesn't have an office, it hasn't been performing, that doesn't concern us. We're not to look into that. We're not looking to the merits of the case, whether they have followed the right procedure. Whether for people vote people because I don't like his black and white tie, I want a red tie. So we don't inquire into the reasons why people do things. But have they followed the right procedure? Has a petition been presented, and has it been signed? Has it been duly endorsed by more than half of the registered constituents? That's all we concern ourselves with. And in the letter, for example, they said we have lost confidence in him. That is sufficient for us. That's the only thing we look out for, not the merits of the allegations. In fact, there are no allegations against the senator in this particular case, actually. All they have said in the letter is that they have lost confidence in him, and rightly so. That's all they need to say.
Majid, isn't that a nebulous process that allows anything to go? So in which case, like you were alluding to, a mere disagreement between a chief executive of a state and a senator could fuel all of this. The fact that a senator has abandoned his constituent could be a ground. The fact that a senator is becoming too popular, in fact, becoming too popular could even be a ground for it.
Yes, and as he said, sir, really, people have a right. Even if you are performing, you are so performing, people have the right to say, we don't want you because you are overperforming. So that is democracy. Democracy allows us freedom of choice, both reasonable and unreasonable. That is democracy. But in this case, again, we have to look beyond what we are seeing. Yeah. Yes, we have to look far, deeper into the horizon. And we are saying the political atmosphere of Kogi State is currently charged, it's supercharged. You saw the rally the senator held in Lokoja a few days ago. Right. It led to loss of lives. We are likely to see such as the recall process.
A lot of people have also criticized that rally. If you want to hold a political rally, why go to a campus, a school campus to do so? You know,
let me say this. Senator Dinumilaye, for me, is somebody you can describe as a maverick. He has his own style, whether good or bad, which has propelled him into national prominence. And he thrives in that style. The best way to confront such a person is not to go to that turf to play with him, because you get soiled. I can assure you that that act was a deliberate act to provoke his political adversaries, and they fell for it, unfortunately. They should have understood how to deal with Edino Melaye. They should have learned from the former governor of Kogi State, for example, Alhaji Ibrahim Idris, who simply ignored Edino Melaye and continued to do what he thought he was doing that was in the best interest of the state. Simple. This is all you need to do. You don't have to engage Edino Melaye. You don't have to. This is a master at this particular style of politics. He's a master at that. So you avoid him and simply concentrate. And for Dino Melaye, for example, yes, his constituents have some even, beyond the recall process, there are some genuine grievances against the distinguished senator that I am aware of. Like the issue of not having a constituency office. He says he's been building one, which he just commissioned anyway.
But it was in the House of Reps for 4 years.
He was even in the Senate for 2 years. For me, he should have.
He should have the 4 years that he had been in
the House of Reps.
He was in the National Assembly as well.
So he should have.
He should have had
even if it's a temporary office that people can actually liaise with before you complete your permanent structure. But I'm sure he didn't have that. He rather concentrated on building a permanent structure. But anyway, he said he has today, he has commissioned it. Now, this is a genuine ground for grievance, really. And again, the fact that this recall process got to this extent, even if it won't succeed at the end of the day, maybe.
And it has not been aborted.
But that it got this far,
yeah,
is also a signal to him that he needs to
beat a retreat.
He needs to concentrate more on providing for his people and concentrate, that's the primary reason why he was elected, and concentrate less in fighting Governor Abelu, who is an executive governor, who has his own job cut out for him to do. This is the reality. Because I'm aware that the Luminary has become the opposition, the opposition voice, the major opposition voice against the executive governor of Kogi State, arising from issues that are purely disagreements on how to share, government, the spoils of war, as it were. So he has attempted to take that little disadvantage and attempt to present it by probably latching on some of the dissatisfaction within the people of the state against their governor, to use it to now become the opposition voice. I think he needs to beat it and concentrate on giving back to his people who elected him into the National Assembly, and allow the governor to concentrate on his own job too, of delivering on his mandate as an elected governor of the state.
I raised the issue of fund. This elaborate process where the INEC is required to conduct a kind of referendum is a no confidence vote. You will need to print materials. You will need to, for instance, we are going to do verification. I raised the issue whether this could be a hindrance to the intention of the law of the makers of the constitution, which is for the constituents to have a kind of mechanism for calling their representative to order. If they cannot impeach him, they can recall him. But if that process of recall is this cumbersome for it to be unattainable, what is the essence of putting it? And already on the part of INEC, is it the issue of the cost intensive nature of the process a disadvantage?
No, I don't think it is. We have funds for by-elections, for a referendum, for eventually we budgeted for certain eventualities, because these things are there in the laws and it is possible. We cannot prejudge it. Just like I cannot prejudge this particular case. There are processes and procedures. I don't know that it will cross the next threshold. And if it doesn't cross the next threshold, it dies. No funds will be expended, because the first threshold is this. They presented the petition, okay, fair enough. But we now have to look to see whether prima facie on the face of it, have they met the threshold of 50% and more signing that petition. If we look at the bags and we see that there are no signatures in so many places, and we count the number of signatures, we find that, for example, there are 50,000. That doesn't meet the threshold. And it doesn't
take us through what INEC will be doing. Absolutely. Now that you have received that petition. What is the process from one point to another?
Okay, as I said earlier, the presentation of the petition kickstarts a process. And the process is this. Now we have received the petition. Now we sit down and look at it. This is what the constitutional provision says. 50% and more than 50% of the registered voters. So we'll bring out the register of voters for that senatorial district. How many people are there? What's the total? Fine. How many people signed this petition? If it's less than 50%, that's the end of the matter there. That's the first stage. But if it's more, we said, well, ostensibly on the face of it, that this petition has been presented. We'll notify the senator or the legislator involved.
The petition is now valid.
Valid
on the face of it.
Yes, it's now held to be prima facie valid. So we notify the senator that, look, a petition has been presented, and ostensibly it is signed by more than 50%, so they've met that requirement. We will now go and do what we call the verification. We're going to verify. That's not in the Constitution. That's the Constitution is the framework.
Yeah, I was going to say that the Constitution just provides for a recall process, yes. But INEC has a guideline of its own.
Absolutely, because it's 50%. How do you tell that 50% have actually signed this petition to kickstart the process as recognized by the Constitution? The law is silent. The guidelines now provide the step-by-step guide to doing that. So it's now the stage of verification. And the verification will be done in the constituency, in the National Assembly, the federal constituency, or in the senatorial district. Now, we have to notify the legislator so that he can go there, and he can get his agents to be there when it has to be verified at designated centers. And that's why if you look at the guidelines, we said, look, arrange these your petitions in accordance with their wards and their local governments. Okay. If you jumble it all together, that is not a valid petition as far as we're concerned, because it's difficult to verify that. And we publish in a newspaper and in the electronic media and probably in our website, look, on this and such a date, a petition has been presented, we shall come for verification to see whether you, the constituents, actually sign that petition. So if we get there and there are so many people, there's a form they fill, say, that's my name, but I did not sign that. My signature is different. I did not print it. I was not the person. I don't support it. I didn't sign it. If we go there and there's a groundswell, there's a lot of people, and such that you total them, they're less than that threshold, then the petition has failed at that stage. Because
if a person comes and he says, this is my name, but I'm not the one that signed, how will INEC know whether that person is telling the truth or not?
It's difficult for us to say. He'll fill a form and endorse that form to say, I didn't sign this. And there are sufficient numbers of people to invalidate that, and the verification is not successful.
So on the day of verification, the scenario is likely to be that all those who sign may be required to be present.
No. That means 50%.
So how then do you know if, for instance, I have signed and I'm not there on the day of verification, some other persons come to present himself as me and denies that signature?
You have a voter's card that has your face on it, a photograph on it. And your face, your photograph is on the register. So you cannot say somebody.
So somebody has to come and say,
absolutely,
this name is me, and this is my voter card.
Or this is me. Even if you don't have your voter's card, your face, the photograph is on the register of voters.
It's on the,
we encourage you to bring your card.
Register.
Yes, we're encouraged to bring your card. But if you've inadvertently lost your card or forgotten your card, your photograph is still there.
Okay.
So that's one of the reasons why we have photographs on the register. So if he comes and says, I signed it, no problem with that. If he says, I did not sign, I ask one or two questions, are you prepared to fill the form? If he fills the form, it means he did not sign it. Then we'll look at it. If there are, let's say, 50,000, then that verification is not successful. It puts a big question mark on the authenticity of that thing, so it might die there. And it's important to note that there have been several, more than a dozen attempts at recalls. Several have died at different stages. Some died at the initial stage of not getting 50% signatures. Some died at the stage of verification, and some have crossed that threshold. If you cross that threshold, we're satisfied. We now fix a date. We now inform you, tell the constituents, we now fix a date for the referendum, which is basically an election, but it's just for a yes or no vote. You are the legislator, is the person being questioned now, is the confidence. Do you have confidence in him? You say, and if you do, come out and vote. If you don't have confidence, come out and vote. So it's a yes or no. Do you want to recall this senator or this person or that legislator? The yes vote.
So INEC is going to have a kind of ballot paper for that purpose?
There will be a ballot paper.
Okay. That's the procedure here that I'm reading from the INEC guidelines. A member sought to be recalled may, by a notice in writing signed by him and addressed to the resident electoral commissioner, appoint one person who must be a registered voter in that constituency in those guidelines referred to as the polling agent. So it's going to have polling agent to attend at each referendum center in the constituency at which referendum is to be conducted, and the notice shall set out the name and address of the polling agent and to be given by the member to the resident electoral commissioner not later than 7 days before the date fixed for the cross-checking or referendum. So some things are on timeline here.
Yes.
If the senators that is sought to be recalled, will probably need to send a list of accredited agents.
If he so chooses,
if he so chooses,
he can send a list of people to protect his own interests.
Will this verification be done on what basis or polling unit basis?
No, it's constituency basis. We have designated centers and we inform the petitioners that their representatives.
I'm just looking at the shared logistics, because in a polling unit, for instance, you have not less than 500 voters in the polling unit.
Well, some have.
And I'm looking at a ward where you have several polling units. And so if you are not going to use the polling units where you can have 500 maximum to manage, and you decide to collapse it to a ward, we are here and there talking of thousands.
No, we usually don't do it in polling units. Usually not.
So we are going to do
it designated centers. It may be the INEC, usually in a local government office.
Local government.
Yes.
So in a local government, for instance, where you have in a local government more than, say, 80,000 registered voters.
Yes.
Suppose you have a large turnout. I'm just looking at the sheer logistics of it, security issues and all of that.
Yes. Well,
That's why I said it's a very huge responsibility.
It is a huge responsibility, but it's a constitutional responsibility which we have undertaken severally, and we will undertake it if it arises now.
But that's another issue. Perhaps one reason, one of the recall processes that had happened that failed in the past that I mentioned, is at this stage that such issues arise.
Yes.
Issue of how to manage temper.
Yes.
It is on that day probably that you expect those who are opposed to the referendum to also come out, or you expect the senator to also fight back and mobilize those who are in the support to also come out, and there you can't manage temper.
Yes.
And that is where INEC is not the one in charge of security.
Exactly. The best form of security here is to, for me, bring about a political solution to all of the crises that have led to this process of recall in the first place. Because we know, we can tell with a crystal ball, with certainty of a crystal ball, that it's going to snowball into a crisis. We've started seeing little snippets of crisis here and there, which is a point at what is going to happen when we get to this stage. So at this point, in order to avert such, since the whole crisis in the state started because of purely personal interests of all the gladiators, and not necessarily the interest of the people, really. Let us all sit down. Let all the stakeholders sit down at this point. Let eminent statesmen from the state come out and call these two young men to order. Sit down on the round table.
Two young men, really? One is 41, one is 43.
Kogi is supposed to be one of the luckiest states today because, one, there has been a cry for general shift in leadership. And we have a youth governor. We also have a youth senator who is also very influential. Both of them, if they synergize, for example, and synergize properly, Kogi would have been one of the most prosperous states in this time, in this particular dispensation. But what we've seen is that their youthful energy has been used, in an exuberant manner without tampering it with the wisdom of the elderly to make sure that their energies are properly synergized for the benefit of all. So to avert that, the crisis of that day, which is already foretold, is to sit down now and look at these things politically and bring about a political solution by all stakeholders.
Okay. I raised the issue of cost.
Yes.
Because here now it's to everybody.
It's to everybody.
INEC, we have to pay some costs. Because it's not easy to mobilize.
It's not easy.
To mobilize for a referendum.
It's an election as it is.
It's an election.
It's an election.
In fact, it's a super election.
It's a super election.
INEC will spend money. INEC will spend money. Is this how we want to be spending public funds?
Exactly.
That is one. Even the person sought to be recalled will spend money because the process, the guideline that I read now, this particular guideline, allows him to have polling agents. He's going to pay them. He alone cannot single-handedly verify the signatures of 100, in this case now, 188,000 people. He alone cannot verify that. So he will need people to help him do that. He will need to pay money.
Yes. Even those instigating.
Those that are
behind
it
will pay even more.
You will, if you are working, you will leave your work to come and say, I want this senator to be recalled. You will pay some prices for all of that.
With, of course, the widespread, with due respect to the INEC official, with the widespread incidents of vote buying in our election, because INEC can only conduct election. Vote buying is we and the people that should decide against that or continue with it. With the incidents of vote buying that is very widespread in our elections, both parties, those for and those against, will spend so much money that should have been used to provide the basic amenities for the people in trying to either recall or prevent the recall of one senator. Everybody suffers. The actors suffer, the people suffer. So before we get to that point, it is important to sit down now and resolve this issue. It is resolvable. It's a very simple issue that can be resolved.
Okay, that's probably as it relates to Kogi.
Yes.
But generally, when you have elected somebody for a 4-year tenure, and within the first 6, you notice that, we made a mistake. This man is not going to represent us well. Either he has become a bench warmer or just passive. Who's first, you don't hear, either at plenary or at committee level, you don't hear anything about him. He doesn't have a constituency process. The constituents must have a way of dealing with that person without necessarily having to wait for 4 years.
For the end of the...
And we also need to have something that is formal and legal. As against, okay, we wait for him. Maybe he comes home every weekend, we'll go and wait for him and begin to chase him up and down and stone him, like some constituents are doing in Kano and Katsina. That is also, we also must not encourage. There has to be something legal for the constituents to hold on to as a means, as a leech on their elected representatives. I'm going to be tapping into your, well, I can't ask INEC to do that. I don't need to drag Mr. Uzi to a purely political
affair.
But let's stay within the realm of what INEC is allowed to do now. Let's advance the process further. Okay, where you have verified, let's assume that you verify that this person has to do all of this. I mean, the threshold has been met, the signatures verified are within the threshold. What then next? You fix a date.
Not fix a date for a referendum.
Is all of this within a time frame? I've seen places where 7 days is mentioned. Absolutely. I've seen places where 90 days is mentioned and all of that.
Because the Constitution says that a referendum, if it's to be conducted, has to be conducted within 90 days of the date of presentation of that petition.
90 days start running from the day the presentation is the petition is presented.
In this case, yesterday. 90 days from yesterday. If it crosses all those other thresholds and referendum has to be conducted, it must be conducted within 90 days. So we'll fix a date within that 90-day time frame for the conduct of the referendum, and we'll notify, again, the petitioners and notify the electorate and the legislators to be recalled. And on that day, just like an election, but it's a yes or no. Yes, I want to recall my senator. No, I don't want to recall him. I'm satisfied with his performance. And again, more than 50% of the total number of registered voters have to vote yes that they want to recall for that recall to be successful. So it's not just
more than what?
It has to be more than 50% of the total number of registered voters in that senatorial district.
So you are not a simple majority of those who come out that day?
No, it's not. The Constitution, the law as it stands now, that 50% registered voters. So if you don't get a 50% turnout in the first place, that has failed. So it must be 50% of registered voters.
Now, isn't that an all-peters, considering our election history, the most popular election that we have conducted since 1999? Since the most popular, the most contentious. There has been no election in Nigeria where we have recorded 50% turnout.
Yeah, but the issue
we have not.
That is what the Constitution says, and we have to implement what it says. It's not my job to change that Constitution, to deal with the normative or to deal with the actual. This is what it says. It's difficult, and I think some of the submissions to the Namani Committee and some submissions to the National Assembly says when there's an opportunity to amend the Constitution, maybe it should be by a simple majority. But look at it. When you want to impeach a person, it's 2/3 majority as well. Don't forget that, because the essence is this.
Yeah, but you are talking of a negligible number. The largest House of Assembly in Nigeria will probably have 46 or 42 members, depending on the number of constituencies. And I think Lagos, Kano.
I think minimum 20, maximum 40.
Lagos, Kano are probably the largest here.
No, Lagos only has 20 members.
In the State House of Assembly? Yes. No, that's not true. Lagos has more than 20 members. Ekiti has 26 members. So how can Lagos have 20 members? If Ekiti, with a very small population, has 26 members in the State House of Assembly. Lagos is like 42 or 46. There are some states next to that, 32.
No state has 46. It's a maximum.
But I know that Ekiti has 26 members in the state. In any case, we are talking of, let us even assume that
local government, but there are many members, but the maximum number
exactly.
About 40.
So we are talking of no number. But here you are talking of hundreds of thousands of people in a particular locality. And that's what we are aiming at. Because if you are saying 50% and above, and Kogi West has 7 local governments, the number of registered voters collectively, according to INEC, is about 356,933.
Yes.
And half of that, or a little over half of that, will be like 180 something. And you've never had that in an election, as turned out in an election.
Yes, but you see,
yet, for the purposes of recall, that's what we're expecting.
Understand the philosophy behind it. You have conducted an election, and you've elected somebody to go there for 4 years.
Yes.
So if you are to recall a person, it has to be higher, the philosophy behind it is that there has to be a very high threshold to do that. Because it's like, people say it's a social contract. We have entered into a contract for it to go to 4 years. Now, if we are going to
you could have 45,
breach that contract,
you could have 41,000. In the case of Senator Dino Melaye now, you could have 41,000 people electing a senator, because that's his vote in the election that brought him to the Senate was just 41,000.
Yes.
41,000 plus votes.
Yes.
Now to recall him, you are looking for 180-something thousand votes.
That's what the Constitution says.
Is that a plus or a minus?
For the Constitution?
For democracy?
I think at this stage, it's fair enough, because in order not to trivialize this process in the first place, so anybody cannot get up and get a few people and then recall somebody. As you have seen, as I've pointed out earlier, that's why these recall processes do not necessarily come from the people per se. It's a product of trying to get back to each other.
Why are we not concerned about those who turn out on election to vote for him, but we are concerned about those who turn out on a record day to vote yes or no?
The law also says simple majority to get elected. The law didn't envisage that turnout to be low. That is up to us now to actually try and do. The law didn't say turnout should be low. Well, it's your freedom. You can vote or not to vote. So all of this makes a recall process, as you rightly pointed out. Even the Western world, voter turnout in most contentious elections are usually above average of 50%. You have 30% turnout, you have 20%, even the most advanced democracies. So it's something that is almost an impossible task. Now, but probably the actors of both sides do not understand this yet, until we go to the point where we lose lives, only for us to not come back and realize this was even unrealizable in the first place. But lives have been lost, time have been wasted, monies have been dissipated, and energies have been dissipated as well.
All right. So the next call, like I said, should come from INEC. The 90 days has started running since yesterday. Yes. So we expect that very shortly, the next thing we should hear will probably be from INEC.
Yes, certainly. If we find out that prima facie there's no valid presentation, no valid petition for us, we'll inform those who have presented that petition. But if it is, then the senator will inform the senator, will inform the people. So
in trying to come to conclusion, to a decision as to whether there's a prima facie petition, what do you look at?
We count, as I said,
you tabulate the
total signatories as compared
word by word. Because you say you ask them to do it
yes.
word by word.
Yes. So vis-a-vis the registered voters.
The registered voters. All right. So it's INEC that should make the next call. Thank you so much. I appreciate the education you have given us this morning. James Ayobami, Lagos State has 40 members. You see, I'm right.
40 is the maximum.
Yes, Lagos State has 40 members for State House of Assembly. That's James Ayobami. Thank you so much. More blessings for us. INEC man analysis is great, but other guest sounds like Dino's man. No, it's not. He should discuss recall process, not to speak for anyone. He didn't speak for anyone. He spoke for the process and spoke for Kogi as well. What is in the interest of Kogi? And then Long John, to help you, Benga, Lagos has 40 members assembly. Thank you so much. Thumbs up, and James. Tayo Akinyemi, Kogi people are not wise. Why can't they mobilize against their governor who hasn't paid them salary rather than go for Dino? And Larry says, no, not Larry. Larry is retweeting. Kogi has been the state used for Electoral Act amendment. This should also be completed to logical conclusion. Dino has Saraki as godfather. That's Ademola. All right, let's leave it here. I'll be responding to tweets. So let's keep the conversation going on our social platform. Thank you so much. Mr. Oluwole Osazewuzi is Director of Voter Education and Publicity, INEC. Thank you, sir. Appreciate your time. Mojid Dahiru is a colleague of the Pen, a newspaper columnist as well, public affairs commentator. Thank you, Mojid.
Thank you very much.
That's Focus Nigeria this morning. Thank you for investing your time with us. Enjoy the rest of the day. I'll see you tomorrow, God willing.